Alpha Bravo 7, Hotel Zulu. The name here is George, over.
Roger, George. I see George. And George, whereabouts are you, sir?
We're located in South Alabama, over.
And what radio are you running, George?
I am running the ICOM IT7300.
Roger, 7300. Okay, George, why don't you give me about 10 seconds, tell me about your antenna, and let me look around and see if I can find a better path for us, Roger.
Roger, my antenna is...
Find a better path for us, Roger.
Roger, my antenna is an inverted V dipole. It's up about 24 feet, and it's really acclimated more north and south than any other direction, over.
Roger, Roger. Okay, I found you 20 over in Georgia, so I have an excellent copy on you. So tell me now something about your radio that you really like for about 10 seconds.
Something about your radio that you really like for about 10 seconds.
Well, my radio is a whole lot smarter than I am, and getting back into the hobby after a hiatus with the kids and everything after 24 years, then, but it really is done well, and it's very forgiving, over.
Yes, sir. Sounds really good. We could maybe improve it, check a couple of things. Our setup procedure starts with the compressor engaged at a 3, compressor on and at a 3. Roger?
Engaged at a 3, compressor on and at a 3. Roger?
That is Roger. Compressor on at a 3, over.
Roger. Okay, now I'll move to your AOC with mic gain in hand. And as you speak fairly rapidly, 100, 200, 300, adjust your mic gain until your AOC meter is reading mid-scale to 2/3.
Your mic gain until your AOC meter is reading mid-scale to 2/3.
100, 200, 300, 100, 200, 300, and mid-scale to 2/3, over.
Roger. Okay, now, do you know where your EQ page is?
Roger. Okay, now, do you know where your EQ page is?
I do. Hold on. Yes, I'm running treble of -1.
I'm sorry, George, you were stolen by gypsies. I got treble -1, and that was it. What about your bass?
Gypsies, I got treble -1, and that was it. What about your bass?
My treble is +4, and my bass is -1, over.
All right, go ahead and pull your bass up to +1 on the bass, and maybe plus an additional click on your treble EQ. So it'll be +5 on your treble and +1 or 0 on your bass. I forget which that was.
+1 or 0 on your bass. I forget which that was.
Yes, I just adjusted my bass to +1 and my treble to +5, over.
All righty, sounding pretty good there. Gosh, tell me something, give me a little amateur radio story, if you might have one in your repertoire.
Amateur radio story, if you might have one in your repertoire.
Yes, I was out of the amateur radio area for a number of years and got back in it, and one of the first contacts I had was Parks on the Air. And after I got off, I said, well, I'd probably like to do all the parks. Then I went and looked them up, and I just... my pay grade, I think, over.
Roger, Roger. I think we've got it there fairly well. We could do a little bit more on the bass end, but I think we'll just hold for now and call everything even. And I'd like to get a little bit more recording of you if I could, Roger.
I'd like to get a little bit more recording of you if I could, Roger.
I appreciate that. I have called you and talked to you just a couple of times over the last couple of years, and really do appreciate the job you do for us, especially with the SDR radios that are out today, over.
Roger, Roger. Well, if you notice, our setup procedure is generic. We can set up almost any radio. Well, we can set up any radio that has, normal capabilities, Roger.
Any radio that has, normal capabilities, Roger.
Yes, and I think that's the nice thing about it is by keeping it, I call it simple, and I do well with simple. And I think as long as it's simple, it gives me something that I can work towards. Thanks. Over.
Roger. Well, as simple as it may be, we cover all of the necessary parameters because we take an unprocessed transmitter, which has an intrinsic 10 dB dynamic range with an average percent of 30% of average peak modulation, and we, through our setup, we convert that to a transmitter with a 3 dB dynamic range with an average 80 to 85% of average peak modulation. Roger.
With an average 80 to 85% of average peak modulation. Roger.
Yes, I understand that. And how close to that am I? Over.
You're dead on it, buddy. Yeah, you are 3 dB dynamic range. Your EQ, like I say, it's a little shy on the bottom side. We could make it heavier on the bottom side. But the thing is, and folks don't really think about it, but there is Mother Nature plays tricks from time to time with phase cancellations, and instead of bending the whole signal back at the same point in space, she bends half of it back at one point and another half at another point, and they come down, and the first thing to happen is that the top end gets out of phase because they were not bent from the same place in space, and so there's a slight time delay, and that is enough to get your phase angle out of keister with each other on the top end. And the first thing that gets nulled out is the high frequency content. And so here you have this beautiful bottom end, and you used to have this top end that balanced it. Now Mother Nature has taken that top end away from you, and you're left with Mr. Bassman. Roger?
Top end away from you, and you're left with Mr. Bassman. Roger.
Roger. I understand that. And right now I'm absolutely maxed out on the treble, and my bass is +1. So I think if that sounds good to you, then I'm in good shape. Over.
Yes, sir. You're fine. You have a nice top end and a pretty good bottom end. And I would get the Gorilla Tape out and taper down. Roger.
Bottom end, and I would get the Gorilla Tape out and taper down. Roger.
Oh, I appreciate that very much, and I certainly, again, thank you for your service that you're doing for us each and every Friday. Over.
Roger, my pleasure, sir. And if you would like to hear your recording, if you go to YouTube and do a call letter search for KC9VKV, followed by the word logbook, that will take you to this recording. Be cut number 1 of 2,000 some odd Qso-Vlog recordings. Roger.
Be cut number 1 of 2,000 some odd Qso-Vlog recordings. Roger.
Roger, 73's AB7HZ out.
Roger, and we shall have this uploaded by noon tomorrow. Should reach YouTube and be available by noon tomorrow. This is KC9VKV, the Friday afternoon Qso-Vlog net. We're rapidly approaching 5 o'clock, and that time we turn into a pumpkin. So if you have a radio you want to check out, give me a shout.
Pumpkin, so if you have a radio you want to check out, give me a shout.